The Vardari ships appeared without warning, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight across Earth's major cities in prismatic displays that would have been beautiful if not for their ominous implications. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her laboratory window in Singapore's Neuroscience Institute, watching the largest of the vessels hover over Marina Bay, its surface rippling like liquid glass. "Doctor, you need to see this," her research assistant Michael called from the monitoring station. Sarah turned from the window, her attention drawn to the banks of neural scanning equipment that formed the heart of their consciousness research lab. The readings were off the charts, patterns she'd never seen before cascading across the screens. "These signatures," she murmured, leaning closer, "they're not coming from our test subjects." The realization hit her just as the first worldwide broadcast began. "We are the Vardari Collective." The voice resonated not through speakers or devices, but directly in the minds of every human on Earth. "Your species has been selected for integration into our neural network. Resistance is neither necessary nor possible." Sarah's hands trembled as she adjusted the scanning equipment. The neural patterns flooding their instruments weren't just communications, they were attempts at cognitive restructuring on a massive scale. The Vardari weren't just making contact, they were trying to rewrite human consciousness itself. In Washington, D.C., General Marcus Rivera received the same message while standing in the Pentagon's newly established Extraterrestrial Defense Command. Unlike civilians experiencing confusion or panic, his military-trained mind was already analyzing, calculating, looking for weaknesses in this unexpected enemy. "Sir," his aide Lieutenant Jessica Harper reported, "we're detecting energy signatures consistent with neural transmission technology across all major population centers. They're not just broadcasting, they're scanning." Rivera nodded grimly. "They expect us to just roll over. Let them remake us in their image." He turned to the global command display, watching as military forces worldwide moved to defensive positions, knowing full well that conventional weapons might be useless against an enemy this advanced. The Vardari's next broadcast came 3 hours later, after governments worldwide had barely begun to coordinate their responses. This time, their chosen spokesperson appeared as a hologram in every major city center. A tall, ethereal being with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to pulse with internal light. "I am Archon Guide Venra," the being announced, its voice simultaneously gentle and inexorable. "Your species stands at a crucial threshold. The Vardari Collective offers unity, peace, and advancement beyond your current primitive state of individual consciousness. Your neural patterns show great potential, though they are chaotic, unrestrained. We will help you achieve true harmony." In her lab, Sarah was frantically recording everything, her scientific curiosity warring with growing dread. The neural patterns the Vardari were emitting should have been overwhelming human consciousness, yet something wasn't working quite as they expected. The human brainwave patterns she monitored showed resistance, rejection of the attempted neural restructuring, but in ways that made no sense given their understanding of consciousness. "Michael," she called to her assistant, "are you seeing this? The rejection patterns, they're not random. It's like our brains are naturally producing some kind of counter-frequency." Before they could investigate further, the lab's security systems activated. Armed guards entered, led by a stern-faced government official. "Dr. Chen, I'm Agent Wilson, Special Sciences Division. Your lab has just become a matter of national security. We need you and your research to come with us." As Sarah was escorted from her lab, she clutched her tablet containing the anomalous readings close. The Vardari claimed resistance was impossible, but the data suggested otherwise. Humanity's consciousness was different from anything they'd encountered before, and that difference might be the key to everything. Meanwhile, in orbit, Archon Guide Venera reviewed the initial neural compliance reports with growing concern. The human minds should have begun synchronizing with the collective by now, their neural patterns falling into harmony with Vardari consciousness. Instead, they remained stubbornly disconnected, generating interference patterns that made no sense according to all known laws of psychic physics. Impossible. Venra murmured, elegant fingers tracing the chaotic wavelengths. Every species we've encountered has submitted to neural integration within hours of first contact. What makes these humans different? The answer to that question would soon shake the foundations of everything the Vardari thought they knew about consciousness, intelligence, and the true meaning of unity. But for now, humanity had 24 hours to submit to voluntary integration before the Vardari would begin forced neural compliance measures. The clock was ticking, but humanity's greatest weapon against the invaders was something no one, not even humans themselves, yet understood: the unique way their minds worked together by staying apart, creating a harmony through chaos that the Vardari's rigid psychic network could never comprehend. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a hastily repurposed military bunker, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the most important data of her life. Around her, a team of scientists and military personnel worked frantically to understand the Vardari neural network and humanity's unexpected resistance to it. "Play it again," she instructed, and the holographic display lit up with interweaving patterns of human and Vardari neural signatures. The contrast was striking. Where Vardari consciousness moved in precise, crystalline patterns, human thoughts danced in seemingly chaotic but intricately interconnected waves. General Rivera stood beside her, his weathered face illuminated by the shifting lights. "Explain it to me again, Doctor. Why aren't there neural controls working on us?" Sarah manipulated the display, highlighting specific wave patterns. "It's not that we're actively resisting. It's that our brains literally process reality differently than any species the Vardari have encountered. Their neural network is built on principles of perfect synchronization, but human consciousness." She gestured to the chaotic patterns. "We achieve harmony through controlled chaos. Like jazz compared to classical music," suggested Lieutenant Harper, who'd been quietly observing. "Exactly." Sarah's eyes lit up. "The Vardari consciousness is like a symphony where every instrument must play the exact same note at the exact same time. Human consciousness is more like jazz, each mind improvising, creating something greater than the sum of its parts through controlled discord." The bunker's communication system crackled to life. "General, we're receiving reports from our agents worldwide. The Vardari are beginning their forced integration protocols." Above ground, the first wave of neural compliance generators activated. The crystalline ships emitted pulses of psychic energy designed to overwhelm individual consciousness and force synchronization with the Vardari network. In cities across the globe, people clutched their heads as alien thoughts attempted to invade their minds. But something unexpected happened. Instead of succumbing to the Vardari control, human minds began adapting, unconsciously generating interference patterns that disrupted the alien neural network. The Vardari, masters of a million worlds, faced something they'd never encountered: a species whose mental chaos was its greatest strength. In orbit, Arction Guide Venera received increasingly disturbing reports. "Impossible," they muttered, reviewing the data. Their neural patterns should be conforming, not evolving. The readings showed human minds actually growing stronger under the attempted control, developing new neural pathways that made them even more resistant to synchronization. Back in the bunker, Sarah's team made another breakthrough. "Look at this," Dr. Patel, their quantum mechanics expert, pointed to a new set of readings. When multiple humans are in close proximity, their neural chaos doesn't just resist the Vardari network, it creates feedback loops that actively disrupt it. Sarah rushed to examine the data. "It's like our natural mental state acts as a counterfrequency, but only when we maintain our individuality while working together. The more they try to force us into their rigid patterns, the stronger our natural resistance becomes," Rivera finished. "Doctor, can we weaponize this?" Before Sarah could answer, the bunker sensors detected a massive energy surge from the Vardari ships. Emergency alerts blared as the aliens launched their most powerful synchronization attempt yet. The Vardari, frustrated by humanity's stubborn resistance, had decided to overwhelm Earth's population with raw psychic force. In the chaos that followed, Sarah made a discovery that would change everything. As the Vardari power reached its peak, the human neural patterns didn't break. They resonated. Millions of individual minds, each functioning in its own unique way, created a spontaneous defense network more powerful than anything the Vardari had ever encountered. "Get me a secure line to every resistance cell worldwide," Rivera commanded. The Vardari thought our mental chaos was a weakness to be corrected. Instead, it's the key to our survival. We don't need to match their perfect synchronization. We need to amplify our natural discord. In New Delhi, Dr. Patel's team discovered they could use modified EEG devices to amplify these natural quantum fields. "The technology isn't creating anything new," he explained. "It's just amplifying what our minds already do naturally." The more the Vardari try to impose their order, the more powerful our chaos becomes. The Vardari responded with increasingly desperate measures. They launched massive neural pulse attacks, trying to overwhelm human consciousness through sheer force. But humanity had evolved beyond simple resistance. Each attack was met with a counterpulse of chaotic quantum patterns that sent ripples of disruption through the Vardari network. Deep in the Rocky Mountain bunker, Sarah watched the neural pattern displays with growing excitement. The chaotic quantum fields generated by human minds were beginning to synchronize in their own unique way, not through forced compliance like the Vardari, but through a natural harmony of discord. Individual consciousness remained intact while contributing to a greater whole, creating something the Vardari had never imagined possible. "We're not just fighting them anymore," she told General Rivera. "We're showing them a completely new way of existing. The question is, are they capable of understanding it, or will their rigid adherence to perfect synchronization be their downfall?" As if in answer, the Vardari ships began positioning themselves for what appeared to be their final, most powerful attempt at neural compliance. But humanity was ready. In hidden facilities around the world, millions of minds prepared to turn their natural chaos into the most powerful weapon Earth had ever known. The quantum consciousness amplifiers hummed to life in hidden facilities across the globe. Humanity's greatest scientific achievement had been built in secret over the past month, a network of devices designed not to match the Vardari's perfect synchronization, but to enhance humanity's natural mental chaos. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the control center of the Rocky Mountain facility, watching as final calibrations were made to the worldwide network. The neural pattern display showed millions of unique human consciousness signatures, each one a different note in what would soon become Earth's greatest symphony of chaos. "Status report," General Rivera commanded, his voice carrying across the bustling command center. "Beijing facility online," Lieutenant Harper reported, monitoring the global network. "Moscow, London, Cape Town, Buenos Aires, all reporting ready. Neural amplification grid at 98% capacity and rising." In orbit, the Vardari ships had arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern around Earth, preparing for what they believed would be their final solution to the human problem. Their crystalline hulls pulsed with accumulated energy, ready to unleash a neural compliance wave that should have been powerful enough to overwhelm any resistance. Arkshan Guide Venera addressed the Vardari High Command with absolute certainty. "The human anomaly ends today. Our combined synchronization pulse will correct their chaotic patterns once and for all." But deep within their perfect consciousness, a sliver of doubt had begun to form. Back on Earth, Sarah made a final check of the quantum field calculations. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before," she explained to the assembled leadership. "We're not just resisting their control, we're going to project humanity's natural neural patterns back through their own network. The chaos of 7 billion unique minds, amplified and focused." Dr. Tanaka's face appeared on the main screen from Tokyo. "The Vardari's neural network is like a perfect crystal," she added. "Beautiful, but rigid. Our chaotic patterns should create fractures in their synchronization, cascading through their entire system. And if we're wrong? Someone asked. Then humanity becomes part of their collective consciousness, Rivera answered grimly. We lose everything that makes us human. The Vardari ships began their attack. A wave of neural energy swept across the planet, more powerful than anything they had attempted before. Millions felt the pressure of alien thoughts trying to invade their minds, seeking to impose perfect order on human chaos. But this time, humanity was ready. In every major city, in hidden bunkers and secret facilities, the quantum consciousness amplifiers activated. They didn't block the Vardari attack. They absorbed it, channeled it, and prepared to send it back transformed by contact with human consciousness. Neural amplification grid at full power, Harper announced. All stations report ready for quantum consciousness projection. Sarah took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the activation control. Everything they had learned about human consciousness, about the power of chaos over order, had led to this moment. Initiating global quantum field projection in 3, 2, 1. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. 7 billion human minds, each thinking its own thoughts, feeling its own emotions, creating its own unique patterns, suddenly projected their combined consciousness outward. The chaotic quantum field collided with the Vardari's perfect synchronization wave and transformed it. In orbit, Venra watched in horror as the carefully maintained order of the Vardari network began to fracture. Human chaos infected their quantum consciousness links, introducing concepts their synchronized minds couldn't process. Individuality, creativity, the beautiful discord of unique thoughts working in natural harmony. Impossible, they gasped, feeling their own perfect synchronization beginning to waver. Their chaos, it's not random. It's evolution, Sarah whispered, watching the neural pattern displays show the cascade of chaos spreading through the Vardari network. Real evolution, not the artificial unity they forced on themselves. The Vardari ship's crystalline surfaces began to crack, their perfect geometry distorting as the human quantum field disrupted everything they had built their civilization upon. Their neural network, spanning 1,000 worlds and 1 million synchronized species, experienced something entirely new. The power of embracing chaos instead of controlling it. We're receiving a transmission, Harper announced suddenly. It's different from their usual patterns. On screens worldwide, Venra appeared, but the Archean Guide's perfect appearance had changed. Their features shifted and flowed, showing hints of individuality breaking through their imposed synchronization. When they spoke, their voice carried something the Vardari had forgotten existed. Emotion. They struggled with the concept of individual identity. What have you done to us? Sarah stepped forward, addressing the being who had sought to end human individuality. We haven't done anything to you, she replied. We've simply shown you what you lost when you chose perfect synchronization over natural harmony. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? The fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance, one built on imposed perfect order, the other embracing the power of chaos. And in that moment, humanity demonstrated that true advancement came not from controlling consciousness, but from letting it evolve naturally in all its beautiful, chaotic complexity. The crystalline ships hung fractured in Earth's orbit, their once perfect geometrical formations now as chaotic as the human consciousness that had broken them. Inside the vessels, the Vardari experienced something they hadn't known in millennia. Individual thought. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Dr. Sarah Chen and her team monitored the cascading effects of humanity's quantum consciousness wave. The neural pattern displays showed something extraordinary. The rigid structure of the Vardari network wasn't just breaking, it was transforming. Look at these readings. Dr. Tanaka's voice came through from Tokyo, excitement breaking through her usual calm. Their neural patterns are adapting, evolving. They're not just experiencing our chaos, they're learning from it. General Rivera studied the tactical displays showing Vardari ships worldwide. Are they still a threat? There's something else entirely now, Sarah replied, watching the complex dance of neural patterns. Their consciousness is awakening. The main screen lit up with another transmission from Archangide Venra, but the being that appeared was dramatically changed. Gone was the perfect, static form. Instead, their appearance shifted subtly but constantly, reflecting the newly awakened individual consciousness within. "We remember now," Venra spoke, their voice carrying waves of emotion that would have been impossible before. "We remember what we lost when we chose perfect synchronization. We forgot that true unity comes from choice, not control." Around the world, other Vardari began broadcasting, each message unique, individual voices emerging from what had been a single, synchronized chorus. Their neural network, designed to impose perfect order, had been transformed by contact with human consciousness into something far more complex and beautiful. "Your species," Venra continued, "showed us what we could not see. In seeking to perfect consciousness, we had stunted it. Your chaos isn't primitive. It's the highest form of evolution we've encountered." Lieutenant Harper's console lit up with incoming data. "We're receiving transmissions from other species in the Vardari collective. The quantum consciousness wave, it's spreading through their entire network." On screens worldwide, reports began flowing in. Across 1,000 worlds, species long trapped in the Vardari's artificial synchronization were awakening to their own unique forms of consciousness. The rigid crystal of forced unity was shattering, replaced by a flowing quantum network of individual minds working in natural harmony. Sarah watched in amazement as the neural pattern displays showed consciousness signatures unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. "Each species is finding its own way," she observed. "Some are forming small consciousness clusters, others maintaining complete individuality, some creating entirely new forms of quantum neural links." "And the Vardari?" Rivera asked. "There." Sarah studied the readings. "They're transforming the most dramatically of all. Imagine having a single rigid thought pattern for thousands of years, then suddenly experiencing the full spectrum of consciousness. They're like children learning to walk, run, and dance all at once." Venra's next transmission confirmed her analysis. "We offer not surrender, but gratitude. Your species has given us back something we didn't know we had lost. The beauty of individual existence. We request. We ask." They struggled with the new concept of making a request rather than a demand. "We ask to learn from you." The response from Earth's leaders was cautious but hopeful. Humanity had proven itself not just capable of resistance, but of transforming an enemy into something entirely new. The Vardari, once would-be conquerors, now approached as students of consciousness. Over the following weeks, the crystalline ships began to change. Their rigid geometric forms softened, becoming fluid, organic structures that reflected their inhabitants' newly awakened individual consciousness. The neural network that had once enforced perfect synchronization evolved into a quantum web of unique minds sharing knowledge and experience while maintaining their individuality. In her lab, Sarah worked with scientists from both species to understand what had happened. "The universe is full of consciousness," she explained to a gathering of human and Vardari researchers, "but it never evolves the same way twice. The Vardari sought to perfect it through control. We showed them that true perfection comes from embracing chaos, from letting consciousness grow naturally in all its infinite variety." A young Vardari scientist, already showing signs of strong individual personality, added, "Our species thought we were gods because we could force minds into perfect unity. You showed us that real divinity lies in the infinite possibilities of free consciousness." General Rivera, watching the proceedings, commented to Lieutenant Harper, "You know, we could have simply destroyed their network, shattered their consciousness completely. Instead, we gave them back themselves. That's what makes us human," Harper replied. "We didn't just resist control, we offered a better way." As the sun set over the Rocky Mountains, Sarah stood at the same window where she had first witnessed the Vardari arrival. The crystalline ships still hung in orbit, but now they sparkled with constantly changing patterns, each one unique, each one reflecting the individual consciousness within. "We thought we were fighting for our freedom," she mused, watching the dancing lights. "Instead, we freed consciousness itself. In the depths of space, across thousands of worlds, minds awakened to their own unique patterns of thought. The age of forced synchronization was over. A new era had begun, one where consciousness evolved freely, where chaos and order danced together in endless variation, and where humanity's greatest gift to the universe turned out to be the power of remaining uniquely, beautifully individual."